All right, let's just break in and take you back to Los Angeles, where there's been a tense standoff in the city between protesters and security forces after the deployment of National Guard troops to the city. These are live pictures coming from Los Angeles. You can see police vehicles and debris on the streets where all the confrontations have been taking place. We knew that 3 cars were set on fire earlier. Protesters have now shut down a major highway there. It's the 3rd consecutive day of protests against federal immigration raids. Flashbang grenades, rubber bullets and tear gas are being fired at protesters. President Trump had ordered the deployment of the National Guard troops, calling crowds their insurrectionist mobs. Well, protesters are angered by military-style immigration raids, which began on Friday. Armed masked agents targeted workers and day labourers, detaining about 100 people, we believe. Community advocates say the raids are designed to instill fear, and crowds had been gathering near a detention facility, calling for people to be released. Trump says LA is suffering from lawlessness, and the mayor is accusing the government of provoking unrest. Well, Al Jazeera's Phil Lavelle has been covering these protests for us all throughout the evening and the night. Phil, when we came to you earlier, things seemed quite tense, but it was looking like the situation wasn't escalating much further. Just bring us up to date now with what's been happening in the last few minutes.
Yeah, but it has escalated dramatically in the last few minutes. I mean, what we're seeing now is some officers who are pretty much under attack. That is the 101 freeway. That has been closed off for several hours. There was a line of police vehicles there for quite a while as they stopped any cars or people from getting onto the freeway. They have been getting fireworks thrown at them. We spoke to a man just a moment ago who said he saw a scooter. We've watched in the last few minutes as burning items have been thrown from the bridges. There are people nearby who are, we've seen them with our own eyes, running and grabbing rocks and bricks. In fact, you can see something's just gone alight there, and the crowd is watching. Now, obviously, those officers are sort of hemmed in a little bit. They have got, you might be able to see, some of them have got their guns pointed outwards. These are to fire rubber bullets, rubber projectiles at anybody who fires anything in their direction. We were standing here just 30 seconds before you came to us, Darren, and we watched a man who was so close I could have touched him throw a firework down there. It didn't hit the officers, but this is the big problem that they now are facing. In fact, we just saw then, you may have seen somebody threw a bottle down there. Glass bottles, Molotov cocktails are the real fear as well, because when they go up, there we go, and there is another firework. The police are in this really tense situation now. And of course, this plays right in to what Gavin Newsom has been trying to prevent, and what the Trump administration has been saying that they need to bring in the National Guard for. They say that the rule of law and order is breaking down in Los Angeles. Now, that might be a stretch in terms of the entire city, but there is obviously that very visible element now where you can see police officers are coming under attack. The National Guard are here, they're protecting federal property. The Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, has already talked about mobilizing active duty Marines onto the streets. That now looks like that could potentially be a possibility. And remember, these protests have been going on all day, but we're starting to get into the nighttime hours now. The sun is going in. That is when these things tend to pick up. We saw it last night. And we're seeing it right now. And in fact, I'm just going to bring in this guy. This is Tim, who we just chatted to a second ago. Just give us a sense, Tim, of what's been going on, because we were taking sort of safe refuge over there for a few minutes. We saw the tear gas. Talk us through what happened.
What happened?
The flashbangs that make you jump.
Yeah, there was a lot of things going on. Stuff blowing up here. One thing I saw is like people here throwing fireworks done under this bridge and making some sort of like, I don't know, explosive concoction. Liquid.
Like a Molotov cocktail type.
Something like that. I can show you. It was like a black liquid. I'm not sure what it was. Yeah, I mean, just a lot of. I was actually trying to get out of here. They told me to go to Union Station, and then at Union Station everything's locked down. I don't want to go that way because there was a bunch of police. I don't know if they're gonna shoot or something. Just a lot of chaos, not sure, just kind of waiting for it to go, go away.
Intense situation. Right, thanks for talking us through it. Stay safe.
Thank you.
So, I mean, there is a lot going on. Over there is where people are grabbing the rocks, and they've been throwing them across over there. The helicopters, as you can hear, are going overhead. Obviously, officers have got the advantage of having air sight as well, so they can see where a number of these people are. And those officers, they've also got these projectiles which they've been firing at them. And I got hit by one accidentally before, these rubber bullets. They hurt when they hit, and they're obviously firing at those at people who throw items at them. But also you've got the flashbangs which are being set off to try to disperse the crowd. There are drones in the air. I'm not sure if these are drones that belong to people who are just filming it for their own reasons, or if they are being related to some kind of police activity. But, you know, it's a little before, what time is it? Coming up to 8 p.m. in the evening. Can imagine that if it continues like this, things are going to get pretty hairy over the next few hours.
Yeah, Phil, you've been telling us all evening about all these flashbangs. We've been hearing them and seeing them on our screens, these flashbangs going off most of the evening. What are the police using to try and force these protesters back? What assets, what more assets do they have at their disposal?
So they've got a few things. The flashbangs are the main things. They don't fire them at people, they fire them over their heads. They're designed to give you a fright, to disorientate you, and by the very name of them, they flash, they bang, right? But the thing is, they went through a stage earlier on where they set so many off that people got so used to them that they weren't even noticing them. So they've had to sort of temper that down a little bit and use them as and when they need to, just to be able to frighten people and then cause them to run in different directions, because that's what they want. They want to disperse the crowd. They also have these other items that they can fire over their heads, which can cause some concussions, slightly larger noises. In fact, let me just show you what's happening now. The police are moving in. So this is the area that was closed off before. They are now closing off this road. You can imagine that they will be moving to take these people into custody or disperse people very shortly. In fact, it looks like people are being put against the wall over there by officers. I think amongst them I can see a couple of journalists who we were standing nearby recently. And they're being told to leave, and they're leaving now. They've been told to get behind the police line. So it looks like the police are obviously going to move into this area. There aren't that many protesters in this immediate vicinity. This area was packed before. This is where those 3 cars were on fire. They've now dispersed, and they've kind of spread a little bit further along. And as you can see, some people are wearing masks because they know that there is tear gas. And we've got some rudimentary masks that, you know, just to help stop you breathing it in if it is fired. But it's pretty volatile at the moment.
Yeah, Phil, as we're talking to you, we're seeing pictures there of those flashbangs going off, people on the bridge, I think overlooking the 101 Freeway, which is where you are. In terms of the security agencies, Phil, it's the LAPD riot police on the streets currently with the National Guard in reserve. How do these two agencies coordinate and work together? Do they even talk to each other?
They'll be talking to each other, but they're all different agencies. You've got the LAPD, you've got the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, you've got the California Highway Patrol who come in, you've got the National Guard who've been brought in. They all have their own unique roles, and their own unique jurisdictions. But at times like this, it's all about manpower as well. You know, you've got hundreds of protesters. You need the helicopters from both the LAPD and the sheriff. You need the National Guard to look after the federal properties. So I'm just seeing some more things being fired over there. Sorry, Darren. So I think that might be some tear gas over there because you can see the smoke is slightly thicker. The flashbangs give you a flash and a bang in a short, very small area of smoke, which disappears quite quickly. The tear gas tends to linger a little bit longer. It's not spreading over here.
The horses are coming.
The horses are on the way over, so we're going to move out of the way and try to just stay with us. I'll talk as I walk, but we're just trying to get out of the way because the police are coming through. When the horses come through, which is what happened earlier today, you'll see a lot of people try to just spread out and get. You'll see the horses charging people. You'll see people try to get away. We'll be able to get out. So the police will just let us through and we'll talk from behind the line. Okay.
Across the street.
Behind the car. Thank you.
Thank you. Behind the car.
Okay. So the fact that they're all getting mobilised suggests that they might be about to move in, so we'll get to safety over here and we'll just try and continue to talk. And you've got those other vantage points that you can see from the various other sources coming in. So this is the California Highway Patrol. So these are the guys that you would normally see patrolling the highways, hence the name, right? And they will be pulling people over on the highways. They are also brought in, though, when you have these large civil unrest situations where they need to provide extra support. Those guys over there behind these officers are also CHP officers in riot gear. I can't work out if these are LAPD or not. It's quite difficult to see close up. Normally you can tell on the badge, but it just goes to prove the point that we were saying about how they all work together when they have to on these different situations. But the one thing we are not seeing at the moment here is the National Guard, and that is because the National Guard are protecting the federal property, which is behind there. That is the building that these detained migrants were held. We think they may still be held. We're not too sure because there's a bit of ambiguity over whether or not they've been moved on. But yeah, it's starting to liven up a little bit here now. And actually, let me bring you around here. We'll show you here. So we have an officer here with the green thing. Now that green gun, that is what fires these projectiles, these rubber bullets. And let me just show you what they look like. That's what they look like. So they're big, they're heavy, and they hurt when they hit you. The technical term is non-lethal projectile, but they do cause some damage. They cause some bruises. And actually, down here we can see people are running down towards the police. So I'm not sure if they've been gassed or not. I mean, it is pretty chaotic. Quite a lot of mayhem down here at the moment.
Yeah, Phil, earlier you were talking to us.
Of it all, and you're on the ground and it's just banging all around you.
Yeah, Phil, earlier you were talking to us about what sort of assets they have in the sky. We're hearing about drones and helicopters. Just talk to us about that as we see the events unfold here on our screens.
Yeah, so they've got obviously the helicopters that they are provided by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, by the Los Angeles Police Department. We understood that there were about 6 or 7 mobilized at various points during the day. Now, obviously, they're not all in the sky at the same time, but you would see 2 or 3 together. You've also got the choppers from all of the local news outlets, so they're all up here getting the pictures as well. And you've got the drones that are in the sky as well. So what they're doing is they're able to look from the air. They've got that tactical advantage because they can see from the air just where these troublemakers are, where these people who are firing these projectiles are, and then they can try to take them down with those rubber projectiles. Those rubber projectiles, as I say, they are aimed at people. They don't kill people, but they are designed to immobilize people just enough to get them on the ground so they can either be arrested or that they scatter.
Yeah, Phil, and you've been with us since yesterday, I think, yesterday evening on day 2 of the protest. This is now day 3 as we're looking here on our screens at a number of police, both on foot and on horses, moving in. Remind us again, Phil, of how events unfolded this evening to get to where we are now.
Well, this all started with these immigration raids. Now, cast your mind back to November when Donald Trump was running and was elected president. One of his key policies was mass deportations. He said he was going to launch the largest deportation program in history and deport what he calls illegal aliens, what people here might call undocumented migrants, depends on the semantics, but he said that is what would happen. The policy was that they would go after people who were here and were criminals, so people who were rapists, murderers, drugs traffickers, people smugglers, those kinds of people. What we've seen are these raids by ICE. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So that is the federal agency that goes around and it arrests people who are undocumented. And they've launched a number of raids here in Los Angeles over the last few days, but they've been taking people into custody who, as far as we know, are not rapists or murderers or people traffickers or drug traffickers, but they are people who were hanging around outside Home Depot, a hardware store, trying to pick up a day's work for some construction, people who worked in a clothing factory. So people who are in sort of lower paid jobs, who perhaps don't speak English, but were here just trying to earn some money to support themselves and support their family. And that's what's really got to the people here, because they're saying this is not what you do here. Los Angeles is a hugely populated city of immigrants. A third of people here are thought to be foreign born, but of course it is a city that is a sanctuary city. That means that the local authorities do not lend their support to the federal authorities as they conduct these raids, and therefore that is something that has drawn the ire of President Trump and those in his administration, and he has described them as being failing cities. He describes California as being a failing state, and he says only he is the one that can save it.
Yeah, Phil, as we're talking to you, we're seeing pictures of that quite large bridge over the flyover. I think you were talking about the 101 freeway. Talk to us about the lie of the land, Phil, and what's been happening there on the freeway, and how important is this for you? And obviously, LA, with its iconic traffic jams, this must be impacting on traffic flowing in and out of LA. Talk to us about the lie of the land there, because you were standing on the bridge looking at what was happening below you.
Oh yeah, if you ever want to come to LA and get caught in a traffic jam, take yourself to the 101 because you're going to find one there. It is a very, very busy road. What they did was the police blocked off all of the traffic that was heading southbound a few hours ago, and the California Highway Patrol blocked off the on-ramps and the off-ramps so that nobody could get onto it. But they left all of the traffic lanes traveling northbound completely open. And what we've seen is, as these officers, as we just saw, were coming under attack, people traveling in the other direction were honking their horns, probably, it looks like, in support of those who are protesting, because there's been a lot of people honking their horns in support of those who are protesting. But, you know, the 101 is a busy freeway, and we often see when protests take place in LA, we've seen them at various points this year over other issues to do with the Trump administration, they do take to the freeway and they start to walk down the freeway.
We're just going to go to an LAPD press conference now. Let's just listen to what the officials are saying.
You good? All good? All right, thank you. Thank you. First of all, I know it's a very, very busy time. Thank you all for coming here tonight and allowing us the opportunity to be able to brief the public a little bit about what's going on and what we've been doing, and ask truly an ask for peace throughout our city. I'm joined here by Gerald Woodyard, Deputy Chief from Operations West Bureau, Herman Hurtado, Commander from Professional Standards Bureau, and from Operations Central Bureau, Raul Jovel, who's also the Incident Commander for Central Bureau and for this incident. So I want to just take an opportunity to speak directly to the people of Los Angeles, clarify LAPD's roles and the events that have been playing out over these past couple of days. This includes our response to protests, our public safety responsibilities, and recent claims that you've seen made by some federal officials. Today I met with Governor Newsom, Mayor Bass, U.S. Attorney General of the Central District of California, Bill Aseli, and ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons. Let me begin by reaffirming a core principle. The LAPD supports and protects the First Amendment right to free speech. In recent days, many protests across the city have been peaceful, and we thank the community for expressing their views and their frustration in a responsible manner. However, when peaceful demonstrations devolve into acts of vandalism or violence, especially violence directed at innocent people, law enforcement officers, and others, we must respond firmly. An act of violence, whether toward officers, demonstrators, or the public, will be met with swift and lawful action. Our goal is to maintain order without escalating conflict and to protect everybody's right to safety. Recent public statements have misrepresented LAPD's action from an incident the other night. Specifically, there was a claim that LAPD delayed responding to a federal officer's request for assistance by more than 2 hours. When we heard that, I think anybody who's a police officer couldn't believe it, and certainly anyone with LAPD couldn't imagine how that would happen. Well, it didn't happen, and I just want to go into that just a little bit. LAPD was not given advance notice that the federal operations would occur in that area. As a result, we were not pre-positioned to respond immediately to unrest related to those actions. Once the call for assistance came in, LAPD responded within 38 minutes. And that sounds like a long time, but I'll tell you why that is. The response was impacted by traffic, crowd density in the area with unrest occurring, hazardous conditions caused by tear gas that was previously deployed by federal agents at that location. Many of our officers, because it was put together in a mobile field force configuration without advance notice, were not equipped with gas masks. But despite these challenges, we moved in quickly and as safely as possible. At no point did LAPD ignore or intentionally delay any request for help. I also want to be unequivocally clear. The Los Angeles Police Department does not participate in or coordinate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement on civil immigration enforcement. We've said this over and over again, and I can't stress it enough for the people in our community who have high levels of anxiety about this issue, that we want everybody to believe and be able to call the LAPD in time of need if they've been a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime. We need that. Otherwise, the system does not work. That has been our policy and remains our policy, and it went into effect in 1979. So 46 years ago, that's been the way we do business. On the other hand, however, when a law enforcement agency, any agency, requests emergency assistance to protect lives, we are obligated to respond, and we do. Public safety is our duty, and we will answer every legitimate call for help from anyone. We recognize that immigration enforcement operations can cause a deep fear and anxiety, particularly in immigrant communities. That's why we're committed to transparency, accountability, and treating every Angelino with respect, regardless of their immigration status. Our job is not to divide communities or politicize law enforcement. Our job is simply to keep everyone safe. I want to express my sincere appreciation to all of our officers and partner agencies for their dedication and professionalism during these very challenging times. Their commitment to upholding the law, even in the face of hostility, is a reflection of the values that we stand for. We're working together to keep everyone safe, our officers and the public alike, and this remains our top priority. We'll continue to support peaceful protests and enforce the law when criminal acts occur. The LAPD remains focused on its core mission to protect lives, safeguard constitutional rights, and serve every neighborhood in Los Angeles with integrity. Let me open it up now for any questions you might have or any points that we can clarify.
Chief, the governor made a very strong statement that he didn't believe the Trump administration needed to activate those National Guard troops and take control of those National Guard troops in the Summerton area because he felt we had adequate safety protections officers here. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, if I don't know what basis they used to make that decision, but if that was based on our what I delineated here about the perceived lack of response to a help call by an outside agency, that did not happen. We did respond with mobile field force configuration. And just to explain that, a mobile field force is a configuration of people or officers within the organization that we bring in from around the city. We declare a tactical alert so we can break them away from their primary duties of answering radio calls to be able to come in, form up. They're trained in this tactic into a configuration of 4 squads or a platoon that are led by a mobile field force leader. They then go 4 deep in the car and they drive into the impacted area, and that way they can safely go in a large group of officers and able to handle whatever they come across. If we were to send in a single unit or a couple of units into a riotous scene, certainly they'd be surrounded and the outcome would probably not be good. And so this is a configuration that has worked for us, developed here, worked for us for many years, but it doesn't happen instantaneously. So we have to call in units. We have to meet at a certain location. They get the information they need to operate in the environment, and then they go and they take care of business. And so that takes a little bit of time. For us to be able to get in there in about 35 minutes is pretty much textbook. So while we'd love to be able to say we can get there in seconds or minutes, in the reality of a situation of civil unrest, we got to do it right. We got to do it safely for everybody involved.
Hold on. Go one at a time, please, and let's identify name and outlet.
Victor with Univision. Chief, we have seen 2 kinds of groups, at least from Friday, Saturday, and today that have been working. The community that is enraged and they're not happy with the actions of ICE, and then the community that loots and attacks and destroys our city. What would be your direct message to both groups? Yeah, to the people who are not happy with the fact that ICE is in the community doing what ICE does, I respect ICE for being a fellow law enforcement agency. They have their mission. They have their what they have to do. We don't engage in that activity, but again, we can't preclude them from doing that. They have every right to do that. I ask people in the community to trust the LAPD, that we're not there for that purpose, and that if they have something they need us to be able to address, we're there for them.
As far as the big picture of what can I recommend they do or not do, that's something. It's a federal issue, and the federal authorities have the right to be able to do what they're doing. As far as people worried about the violence that we're seeing, this violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. And we have adapted our tactics to be able to have a chance to be able to take these people into custody and to be able to hold them accountable. We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity and the type of things that they're doing. They'll take backpacks, and the backpack will have a cinder block in it. They have a hammer, and they'll break up the cinder block and use that, pass it around to throw at officers, to throw at cars, and throw at other people. We've seen people with hammers, and you've broadcasted, breaking the bollards behind the federal building and taking the rocks, if you will, or pieces of concrete, and throwing them at officers. We've had liquid of who knows what description thrown at officers. There's no limit to what they're doing to our officers. And again, as I mentioned in my statement, I can't thank our folks enough and our partner agency police officials for going out there and taking care of the community and trying to be able to put themselves between the threat and the overall community. And they do this night in and night out. And in these past couple of nights, we've seen it at a level that I think disgusts every good person. Thank you, sir. Well, you know, it's an interesting question, because I would have said that we could handle this. I believe that we would have gone through a number of steps before we'd have deployed the National Guard or requested deployment of the National Guard. We would normally go to 50% deployment to handle radio calls and do the business of policing, and everybody else would be focused on the initial problem. Beyond that, then we would request through the sheriff mutual aid, and that would bring in members of the 44 other police departments in LA County as well as the sheriff's office. And so that didn't occur in this case because it wasn't done through the sheriff or through up through the normal chain. It was done from the top down, from the president directing that happened, and then the National Guard was federalized. So they're working for the U.S. Army, not for the California State National Guard. Do we need them? Well, looking at it tonight, this thing has gotten out of control. I think before I could answer that, I'd have to know more about what their capabilities are, what their role is intended to be able to make that determination. But we have great cops in Southern California here that work together all the time. So we have tremendous capability here. To say that we would go to that right away, I'd say we wouldn't have been there yet. Looking at the violence tonight, I think we got to make a reassessment.
How has your department interacted with the National Guard, if at all, since they've been here?
I'd say very little, other than we had a conference call this afternoon. There aren't a whole lot of soldiers in place at this time. They're still incoming. But the people who are here, they're tremendous Americans here trying to do, they provide their service, doing the task that they're charged with. Our relationship has been tremendous overall with the National Guard. We worked right alongside them for 5 months during the Palisades fire. They were there every day in the beginning in large numbers, and then that narrowed down before they demobilized. But the relationship is overall tremendous. We're very, very good partners with them, and I hope they feel the same about us.
And when you look at the demonstrators who are people from the community who are upset about the immigration rates and do you feel any sense of kinship with them or about this situation, or do you see that there is need for more law enforcement and for more immigration enforcement in Los Angeles?
I think the federal agents are enforcing federal immigration law, which is their right, and anybody can have their personal opinion on to what level that should be, who should they focus on, and those kind of things. I won't take a position on that because really that's not our focus, not our job. But when I look at the people who are out there doing the violence, that's not the people that we see during the day who are legitimately out there exercising their First Amendment rights and to be able to express their feelings about the immigration enforcement issue. These are people who are all hooded up. They've got a hoodie on. They've got face masks on. They're people who do this all the time, get away with whatever they can, go out there, from one civil unrest situation to another, using the same or similar tactics frequently, and they are connected. Some would call them anarchists or by any other variety of names, but they're people that we run across routinely city to city, and this is what they do. So even more disgusting that many of the people who are doing this come in from other places just to hurt people and to cause havoc.
Chief, let's go next to Tony.
Okay.
Do you think that the presence of National Guard increased the level to this kind of situation? I mean, you said that it's disgusting. You think that if you control it without them, it could be a different situation?
I don't know. That's a very interesting question. What was the catalyst for us seeing the second and third day of this becoming increasingly more violent? To be able to say it's because of the National Guard, I can't, because there aren't enough on the ground at this point to make a difference. I've seen civil unrest a number of times before, and generally the second and third days are more violent than the initial phase. And so this is not much different from that pattern. But certainly I think there's a number of things that cause people to come out. Much of it is they watch this and see it on TV, social media, whatever social media outlets they follow or asking them or telling them to come down and be part of this, and they do that. And they come out here, and many come out and just want to see what's going on. They're out there with their cameras, but they're putting themselves in harm's way and potentially setting themselves up for a criminal future. When you look at some of the things that are happening here, somebody could easily be killed. And if you're part of that, then you're going to be facing those charges as well. I talked to the DA just a couple of minutes ago, and the DA will file felony charges on individuals where it's appropriate, but won't be shy about doing that where it is appropriate. And also the potential for federal charges, given the type of environment we're in. And the federal authorities don't play. And so as we move forward, I think people will be surprised in some cases for what happens to their future.
Let's go to 2 more questions. Anybody that hasn't asked already, go ahead. Thank you. Given the amount of officers and hearings of knowledge, how does that affect the response time to other parts of the city and safety that are not yet?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. A great question. It was, how does the deployment of so many officers downtown or in any one part of the city affect our ability to provide police services citywide? It greatly impacts our ability because it pulls officers who would normally deployed in communities around the city of Los Angeles into one area in order to be able to address the threat that we're facing. And so other areas, when we go on tactical alert, that means we only handle radio calls of significant importance, meaning a violent crime in progress, calls that have to be answered right away. So the other calls get put on a queue and may not get handled for some time to come. And they're important to everyone who is a victim of any kind of a crime. And so when we go to tactical alert, we don't do it lightly. But in this case, we did it very quickly because we needed additional resources right away to be able to help quell the violence. And that situation, as you can see tonight, has only gotten worse.
Chief, given what you said about not being informed so you could pre-stage for the incident that started this thing, and you said, I believe, that you spoke with the ICE director as well as the city officials today. Is there any effort being made for ICE to share information about what their next move is?
Yeah, that's something that we did talk about, and there's no resolution to that. And the problem is that we are guided and bound by the California Values Act, which means that we can't participate in any way in civil immigration enforcement. So the federal partners have been reticent to provide information to us before something happens because of that reason. Part of that is they want to be respectful of the rules that we have to live by, but it also, on a normal situation, not that big a deal, but in a situation like we saw here in the past couple of days, it turns out to be a very big deal. So we're going to continue to work with the partners that I mentioned and many others as we go forward to try and be able to make things as safe for everybody as we can.
All right, Spectrum.
Chief, how many arrests so far?
You have that?
Yes, Captain Royal Javel, Operations Central Bureau, Incident Commander. At least, and this is very fluid and preliminary, at least 10 people arrested so far. There's arrests being made as we speak. About 3 officers injured. Unfortunately, very fortunate on very minor injuries, or I wouldn't say not minor, but they're not significant enough to be transported to a local hospital. They were treated at the scene. But we're making more arrests as we speak, and we're trying to get into that posture where we're able to make arrests. Right now, really, our officers are really under attack. If you can see, when the chief was talking about, we're trying to, first of all, ensure that our officers are safe and the public is safe. And then we'll move into, if we can arrest, we'll arrest, and then obviously protect the property and our vehicles and other things like that. But as of now, 10 arrests.
And if I could just jump on, and then 29 last night as well. And so as we move forward, we will step up our arrest posture in order to hold people accountable and do what we can to stop this violence.
We're going to go 2 more questions.
Really quick, yeah, she asked a question I have. How long does the arrest take in this situation?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
How long do you think this situation?
Yeah, for me, again, that would be speculative to say how long that the members of ICE will be in town doing the enforcement actions they're doing. But by calling out the National Guard, oftentimes their deployment periods are in 30-day periods. And so to me, it's going to be an extended period of time. I don't know how long that'll be. We're gearing up for that to be able to participate in a meaningful way as we move forward without exhausting our people beyond what they already are. We're a department that went through 5 months plus of the fires and dealing with the fallout from the fires. And as you can imagine, with a very limited sized department to begin with, that's a big stress on our deployment, but more so on our people and their families. So as we move forward, we'll do everything we can to focus on employee wellness and to be able to offer whatever services we can to address the needs of our folks.
Sure. We'll go one more back there because he hasn't asked yet, and so Carmen, go ahead, and then one more, and then we're going to call it.
So just 2 questions. One, is there a chance of instituting a curfew? And 2, will you be going back and re-looking at any of these incidents that maybe there wasn't an opportunity to even arrest at the time, but going back and trying to investigate who was responsible and potentially arresting after that?
No, thank you for the question. I spoke with the sheriff today, and we discussed the possibility of implementing a curfew. We don't rush into doing that, but if we need to do that, I'll go back with the sheriff and we'll look at the options as far as that goes. And as far as give me the second part of the question again.
For some of these incidents we watch unfold, a lot of people watch.
Oh, I got you.
Things just unfold in real time.
Yeah.
Thinking, are any of these people going to be held accountable for this?
Yeah.
Or the cars on fire and things like that? Is there a chance of going back?
Absolutely. When you look at the numbers of arrests we've made, pale in comparison to what will be made. There are video accounts of what happened everywhere on social media, on individuals' cameras, iPhones. We will go after that very aggressively. Go after the all available video, analyze that video, and hold whoever we can accountable for the variety of different types of crimes that have been committed. And that's something we'll do with a number of different partners with levels of expertise that may be beyond what we have. No, thank you for that.
Matt Armstead from the LA Times. Can you tell me on what charges people were arrested yesterday and today?
Do you have the specifics? Yeah.
So yesterday, the 29 folks were for failure to disperse. They were all arrested today. So today and so far, this is very preliminary because there's so much stuff going on. The stuff that we know is one person was arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at an officer, a significant incident, and then another individual for ramming a motorcycle into one of our line where the officers were and injured one of the officers. Everything else is still very fluid, and I won't have that for a while.
Was anyone arrested on the freeway or related to the freeway?
So CHP has made at least 17 arrests that I'm aware of in the freeway.
All right, thank you, everyone. Commander Hurtado will stick around to do comments in Spanish for anybody who's interested.
Can we get the spellings of the captain?
Sure, everybody can come up and spell your name.
Captain Raul Javel, Raul JOVEL. Thank you.
You need anybody else? Okay.
Right, so if you're just joining us here on Al Jazeera, you've been watching a press conference live. The head of the LAPD, Jim McDonald, just updating us on events unfolding on the streets of Los Angeles, those protests against ICE immigration authorities rounding up people. These protests have been going on for 3 days now. The LAPD giving that press conference. He said he met with the governor and the mayor and various federal authorities. He said the LAPD supports the right to protest and free speech, but he said when peaceful protests descend into violence, the LAPD must respond. He said the goal is to maintain law and order without the situation escalating. He said the LAPD does not assist or join in with immigration enforcement operations. So that's ICE agents going into various buildings and taking people who they believe are undocumented migrants. I'll just say that again. He said the LAPD does not assist or join in with those immigration enforcement operations. He said the LAPD does not politicize law enforcement. He said his job, the department's job, is to keep people safe. And he said the National Guard has been federalized. He says they are not working for the LAPD, but working for federal authorities. So Jim McDonald there giving that press conference. Let's go back now to Phil Lavelle. He's live for us in Los Angeles. Phil, so Jim McDonald's saying there that the LAPD does not join in with ICE operations, but that's not likely to quell the anger against those ICE operations on the streets, is it?
No, exactly. And, Captain McDonald also used a word that I picked up on. I don't know if it was intentional, but at one point early in that conference, he said that they were overwhelmed. Now, that is a really significant thing to say, because the issue here is that Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass are talking about how they need to be able to keep control of the situation here. Donald Trump has been talking about how Los Angeles has, law and order has broken down. If this gives the administration a reason to say that the authorities here can't cope, then there is the potential for more federal interference, for want of a better word, or oversight, if you want to choose a different way to describe it. Could that mean that there are more National Guard sent in? Could that mean that active Marines are sent onto the streets, which is what the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, has also alluded to. So, that may have been a slip of the tongue. It may not have been meant in that context, but that is something that you can imagine is likely to be seized on at some point by those who support the administration and its policies. Now, he did talk about how, like you say, they are not providing that support to these federal raids because they are federal. Remember, Los Angeles is what's called a sanctuary city. That means that the local authorities, the local law enforcement, do not provide assistance. So they do in other parts of the country, let's say Florida, for example. They proudly say that they help ICE, they help Immigration Customs Enforcement to do that. But here in California and in Los Angeles, they don't do that. They kind of keep themselves very much separate. But like you say, that's not going to quell the disquiet, because although people here are not angry at the police per se, the anger is directed at Donald Trump. You just got to look at the signs that people have been holding all day and the phrases they've been shouting to know that. The police are what stands between them and the administration, and it is the police that are coming under attack. It is the police that are arresting people. It is the police that are being hit by those fireworks, and they are, they're in quite literally the firing line here. And so that is where it all starts to get a bit blurry between how it's going to operate between the federal side and the local authority side. But like he said, their responsibility is just to maintain law and order. And when you're seeing situations where cars are set on fire, where fireworks are being thrown at officers, where people, like he said, are using hammers to chisel away bollards to throw items at police, then that's the issue. And we've seen it ourselves. My cameraman Jim and I were walking along today. We saw people with hammers and they were hitting lampposts. They were taking the signs down, the signs that say cross here. They were taking them down so they could use them as shields, but they were also using them to whack bollards too. And people are coming here, if they have hammers with them, clearly with an intent. These are not necessarily your protesters who are here to shout things about Donald Trump and to campaign and protest against those arrests. These are people who are coming here with fireworks, and like he said, these are commercial grade fireworks. These aren't just fireworks you buy in a store. These are commercial grade fireworks, so they're louder, they're bigger, they cause more damage. And people who are going with that intent, they are the ones that they are specifically trying to target here.
Yeah, Phil, just another thought from you whilst we have you on. I mean, please, you were telling us this earlier that the California governor, Gavin Newsom, were pleased from him to protest peacefully, but obviously Donald Trump using words like swarms, mobs, insurrection, and setting Los Angeles free. Two very different viewpoints, Phil, here coming from different sides.
Oh yeah, and it's all in the language and it's all in the imagery. So, you know, while that press conference was on, I was just looking through my phone, looking at various feeds. Both the Homeland Security Department, so this is like an official body, an official social media account. Elon Musk was another one, have posted the same photograph. They've posted a photograph of the burning vehicle with a guy with his top off and a mask on waving a Mexican flag. Now that is an imagery that is going to appeal to a certain person, whereas there will be images that are shared by people on the other side of the political spectrum that will be showing family members that have been taken away from their families when they were outside a Home Depot hardware store just trying to get some extra work. So it's all about the imagery and it's about the language. The fact that we are hearing words like swarm, insurrection, Donald Trump saying that Los Angeles has fallen pretty much. It's fallen into anarchy and only he can save it. The fact that he's saying he can save Los Angeles shows where he stands on this situation. So you've got that, and you've also got Gavin Newsom, who's trying to tread this very fine line. He's trying to show that he is in control of the situation as the state governor, but he's also trying to de-escalate the situation, to try to calm it, because he doesn't want the federal government here taking control. In fact, he said a few hours ago, he formally asked the White House to rescind its control of the National Guard and hand it back to California. And he said, a quite simple phrase, he said, there wasn't a problem here until Donald Trump got involved.
Yeah, Phil, I want to squeeze in one small, tiny question, because you're talking about language and narratives and optics and imagery. I mean, how is social media playing into these divided opinions that you've just spoken to us about, Phil? I mean, talk to us about how both sides are using social media platforms to get their narrative across.
I mean, they're openly fighting with each other on social media. You know, yesterday, the mayor, Karen Bass, put out this statement on social media, and she said, we will not stand for this. And immediately, Kash Patel, who's the director of the FBI, hit back and said, we will. There were various messages throughout the day from Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, from Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, from Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary, from J.D. Vance, all talking about using the same language, saying that law and order needs to be protected, that these are people, these are federal workers, and I'm talking about ICE agents here, but also officers who are trying to uphold the law. These are federal workers who are doing their job. They're trying to make the country, the city, a safer place, and they are being attacked. So there's a lot of language there, and there's a lot of, obviously, trying to appeal to that side of the political spectrum. But, you know, at the same time, you've got Gavin Newsom, who is openly fighting with Donald Trump. And also, to a certain extent, they're trolling each other. You know, Donald Trump yesterday put a post on Truth Social in which he said how great it was that the National Guard were here and they were restoring law and order to Los Angeles. Gavin Newsom screenshotted it and he posted it on his feed. And J.D. Vance also posted it, the Vice President. And so did Pete Hegseth. And Gavin Newsom replied and he said, we've obviously got some smart people at the Pentagon because when this was posted, the National Guard were not even here. So there's a lot of trying to get one up on each other as well on social media. And remember, this is a modern day age now where everything is captured on social media. People are filming everything that happens in real time. Everything is being broadcast live, not just by TV crews, by everybody in the protests and by those who are involved on the political side. So it's a very different type of protest than you may have had here like 15, 20 years ago. But social media is playing a huge part of it.
Yeah, as it always does. Phil, for the time being, stay safe. Thank you. We'll no doubt come back to you throughout the night as these protests unfold.